Welcome in to another exciting episode of The Scene. I'm your host, Bubba Starts, and with me today is singer-songwriter, Midwest Country Music Organization member, and Nashville recording artist, Brad Morgan. Brad, how are you today?
Good. How are you?
I'm fantastic, man. It's great to get you on the podcast. I've had the pleasure of meeting you and your lovely wife in person. You guys came out to the Yankton area and played last summer, and it was a great time to see you there. But for those that don't know you, most of our listeners out there, why don't you give us a little bit of who is Brad Morgan?
Yeah, well, I grew up in western Iowa and between the towns of Manning and Templeton, Iowa. I grew up on a farm, living the farm life, and I started playing music around junior high or high school, and I've never looked back since.
That's awesome. That's kind of a similar story to mine as well. So growing up on a farm, obviously, I'm assuming a lot of country music in the household as you're growing up. Has that been a big influence on your career path?
It has, but I grew up listening to all styles of music. My dad was into country. My mom was into a little bit of everything, older 60s, 70s rock, some Motown stuff. I had older siblings who were much older than I was who introduced me to rock, all types of rock, pop, hip hop, you name it. But ultimately, I all kind of came back to the country genre. It just kind of fit who I was and fit my style. I really like storytelling songs and, instrumentation in country music. And so that ultimately brought me back, and it was just a good fit for me.
Yeah, well, and being from Northwest Iowa, you still got a little bit of a southern drawl to you. I don't know where you get that, but it's not real long like the deep South, but you sound country, Brad, and not in a bad way.
I've lived in Nashville for almost 10 years. So
that's what it is.
Yeah.
It rubs off on you. I was actually born not too far from Nashville. I mean, a couple hours really, but down west of Chattanooga in a town called Sewanee. Okay. There's a University of the South. Right. My dad was a standout college athlete at a very well-known academic school.
Cool.
Yeah, a school known for graduating Rhodes Scholars. My dad's in the Hall of Fame for basketball. It ain't where you make it. It's that you made it, right? Well, that's so right. So Brad, did you grow up playing in bands with your buddies in high school, or what's the career arc kind of been like? You say you've been in Nashville now for 10 years, but what was your music career maybe before the move to Nashville?
Yeah, I guess, I grew up watching my older brother. He played in rock bands when he was just out of high school. And then my uncle played country and folk rock, stuff like that. So I grew up watching them play and always had an interest in music, and I'd always sing along with the radio and stuff, and was in band in elementary school and part of junior high. But I had quit band. Oddly enough, around the time I got my first guitar, I had quit band and I was, wanting to play music, and I learned guitar around my freshman year of high school and, put a couple bands together with some high school friends, and we did the whole rock thing. And, we'd travel around, play people's garages and some, small clubs here and there. And I finally got to the point, I liked, like I said, kind of going back to the country thing. I started to kind of revert back to country music. And so I went to college in Ankeny, Iowa for a little bit. And I would just kind of play around anywhere and any chance I got. And that started to turn into bigger and bigger things. And I got to the point where everybody was telling me, man, you need to go to Nashville. You need to go to Nashville. So in 2014, I moved to Tennessee, and, it was kind of a nerve-wracking thing. I was like, man, I love Iowa. I love the Midwest. I don't really want to leave the Midwest, but I think this is the thing I got to do. And it ultimately, it turned out I never really had to leave the Midwest, because I kept going back every summer and playing shows. And I still do that to this day. I'll come back for the summer months, and I play all over the Midwest. And we've had a great time doing that. I've released a lot of music, written a lot of songs, and met a lot of great people.
Yeah, and that's That's something we've actually been talking a lot about, and with other MCMO members as well, as that, you know, we don't need to go to Nashville. The connections there are nice, especially on the recording side. I don't think you're ever going to find, you're not going to find better writers' rooms, right? You're not going to find better studios and better studio musicians. But to be a musician, you don't need to go there. You know what I mean? To be a working musician and to have something, but it definitely requires you to have a really vibrant local scene. And that's really what we've been building with the podcast and building here in Sioux Falls and around this area, Mitchell, South Dakota included in that, Yankton as well. But yeah, we're kind of stretching and trying to stretch up into the cities and out in all directions to all the major markets to kind of connect the dots for guys not unlike yourselves, career musicians who aren't on that national tour. You know, you ain't Luke Combs, right? But you're just as much a working musician as he is. And we're trying to provide some gigs out here for guys and some content, right? A little bit of publicity where we can, and to just build up all of our regional upper Midwest artists that are out here, and to teach them, hey, you don't need to go to Nashville to make it something, right? You might not make it big from here, but I think you can carve a nice little niche out for yourself. And Brad, you're kind of living proof of that, and you get to have a foot in both worlds. You're the first person we've had on the podcast that's had a vast amount of experience in Nashville. A few of our friends have gone down, recorded, and done a few things, right, on a very limited basis. Can you talk about what the scene, and maybe start from the beginning of just getting there, and kind of what it's like for someone that's brand new to Nashville, and what that journey was like for you?
Well, first of all, I 100% agree with everything you just said about being able to be a musician from anywhere. And that's just to talk about that for a moment, with the Midwest Country Music Organization. That's what it's all about is, you mentioned the writers and the producers and the recording and everything that's here in Nashville. While that's true, this organization is helping connect people like you and me and everybody else involved, producers, musicians, artists, songwriters, venues, you name it, radio, all these, people who work their butts off in the Midwest. And, before I'd never really had the network, other than their local network. It's really our organization is really working to bring all these people together. So you can have a career in the Midwest. You don't have to go to Nashville. And that's one of the things when I first moved down here, it was at the tail end of when you still really did have to move to Nashville. The tools weren't necessarily popular enough or there, to move down and be able to market yourself digitally. It was just kind of the baby stages of that commercially. So, I think the thing about Nashville is, just getting out there, getting in front of people. You never know who's going to be listening to you or seeing you play or hearing your song you wrote. So it's just trying to get out there as much as possible, meeting people, collaboration. I think collaboration is one of the biggest words, not just Nashville and the Midwest, but anywhere for anything, just meeting people and working together. And the more people the more people they'll, get on your side and let you, show your music, share your career. And so I think that's what we're all about with the Midwest Country Music Organization. But I think Nashville has that mindset also.
Yeah. And the motto of our show, and I'm sure of organizations that we work with, is that it's collaboration, not competition. Right. And the only thing that's different up here, we have all the talent in the world. It's over a greater distance, right? We don't have a hub of where everyone's at, right? And that's what's great about Nashville, and that is that everybody's there. And even if they aren't living there full time, I'm sure a lot of the big national guys aren't living there full time, right? I know quite a few are, right? But everybody comes through there, and that's what's important. For the big moments, people are there. Everybody gathers there. That's the place, right? So and what's great about the internet now and everything being as it is that we don't need to all be in the same place. Right now on a phone call, Brad, most of our communication has been long distance. Like I said, we've met once, but we've never been in a room together since then. But we've been able to make some things happen. We've got some shows booked, and we've been able to do that. And it's all those relationships, and then having these organizations that are just a loose affiliation of business owners, essentially. That's really what it is. We're all independent contractor, musician, business owners, and trying to get together and all make it work and find a way. So, yeah, I am overjoyed to be at the Midwest Country Music Organization Awards Show in Okoboji, Iowa, next Friday and Saturday, a big get-together. And Brad, you're nominated for a couple awards, Male Vocalist of the Year and Video of the Year for your song Beer Disappears. What an honor that must be for a Northwest Iowa kid.
Yeah, last year I've been going to the award show. I've been a member since 2018, or 2019. Sorry. My first year at the award show was 2020, and I was nominated for a couple different things that year. And but I think the thing was I was just blown away by the people involved with it, and how everybody, like you said, it was a collaborative thing. Nobody was like, oh man, they won instead of me, and pouting, and everybody was encouraging each other. And so it is an honor, because these awards are selected by public nomination, and there's a board that reviews that, or a committee, and then those nominations are voted on by your peers. So I was honored to win last year the male vocalist category, and it just means a lot more when your peers are the ones choosing, the people that are doing the same thing as you. And it's an honor again this year to be nominated.
That's awesome, man. Well, you got my vote. I'm not afraid to tell you.
Well, I appreciate it.
Yeah, man. Well, and that's why it's so fun for me. We weren't, we got into the organization in February, so I barely found out about the nominations and then how you're supposed to gather enough to actually get selected, right? So we did try and at least get some nominations in there to get our name, familiar in people's heads. But, since then, I've really reached out into the heart of the company, Bob Keesley and Paul Thomas both, having their phone numbers and being able to kind of bounce some ideas about what I'm trying to build in Sioux Falls and South Dakota and the greater, in the greater vision, and my connections out to the Black Hills, which is where I'm from. I grew up out in Deadwood, so all of my connections really are mostly 4 or 5 hours further. So we're really trying to build that network out and relationships with you and all the other members. And that's what builds it out. We got a couple other members that are coming for a show, the same weekend. So we have Samuel John is coming out to play a writers round in Mitchell, South Dakota, as I'm headed out of town to go to the MCMO Awards in Okoboji, and just a lot of synergy right now between all of the members. And I encourage anyone listening who's a musician, whether you're into country music or not, I think it's a great organization for any musician, really. Would you agree with that, Brad?
Yeah. I mean, we've had people who are, a guitar player or a drummer, join the org, and, they're not
producers, engineers, right? I mean,
yeah. Yep. And they're not necessarily specifically country. But I've hired, people to play for me through the org that were guitar players that were kind of more rock and roll, but they see a value in being a part of the organization and being in that network.
Yeah, and I think we're both here to stump for the amazing value that you get for a very nominal fee, a membership fee yearly. I think it was $50, or it doesn't really matter what it is. I mean, yeah, it's so you forget about it as soon as you do, because as soon as you're a part of the organization, you're in these Facebook groups and you're in, the members only areas, and you're like, oh my God, I'm getting so much from this. Like, who are all these amazing people? And then once a year you get together for the award show. I can't wait. I'm going to have my little mini recorder with me. So if anybody wants to talk to me for a few minutes while I'm there and give some thoughts, I hope to capture a bunch of content for the podcast while I'm out there. And just getting to know everyone, because we got some gigs out here in South Dakota. Brad, you're a part of some of those. It's fun. We're all kind of have the same mentality. This group think that's going on is wonderful. It's pretty cool to come on and have conversations on the podcast with other people. That's literally conversations I've been having with myself for months now. So,
yeah, I love it.
Yeah, it's great. So you get to spend your summers kind of touring around, and then what does kind of winter? Is it more focused on? Are you living in Nashville during that time and kind of recording music in the winter on the non-touring season? Then,
Yeah, you nailed it. So I come back down here. My wife works down here, so I come back. I write, record. I play writers rounds and play a few gigs around town. And we have the occasional weekend run where we go do something and play somewhere. And so it's after a busy summer, it's really just kind of nice to you get out of the swing of things and you can clear your mind mentally a little bit and become a little more artistic. And so that's where that really helps, with the writing and creative process.
I need to find that time. I as a promoter and there's just so much work to do here, Brad. I have some really great rooms that I've stumbled into with my band. And it's like these need a little bit of TLC, right? And not even from a physical standpoint. They just need some energy breathed back into them. And that's kind of what the Dr. Lucky's spot is it's it's the old State Theater, and it's got so much character in this giant, tall ceilinged room with a beautiful stage. And now we got an awesome sound system and the lights are all there. And it's like, man, this is a nice little rock club. Now we just need to tell people about it. So we're kind of getting into that phase now and then delivering and bringing some really great shows. And you got to deliver with the talent as well. And that's why guys like you and an organization, like the MCMO are so easy for me to tap into, right? Hey, I got gigs. Who wants to play? And there's, 200 hands that go up. So
yeah,
how cool.
Sure. I think that's been the coolest thing too. From the aspect of when I first joined the org, there was nothing going on with original live music in the state of Iowa, at least. Maybe a couple things here and there, but we started doing writers rounds with members of the org, and they've just blown up. People are doing them all over the state now. We've had, multiple events. Our friends Corey Waller and the Wicked Things in the org, they've had a bunch of people, Monica Austin, they've collaborated with so many different members, and we've had ticketed events that quite frankly sell out. We've done writers rounds, dual build shows, and it's mostly original music. And I think that's the awesome part about it is there is a market for it. People are hungry for something other than the 4-hour bar cover band. That's still a great thing if that's your thing and you want to do it. But from an original standpoint, I feel like this organization is really helping to grow that across the Midwest.
Definitely are. And each venue has its own thing, right? And not every bar needs original music and not every bar needs a cover band. And it's finding those areas and these places where we can incubate that original stuff. And that's exactly what we're doing here. Club David is a nice room in Sioux Falls. That's kind of, changed ownership over the last couple of years, and they're trying to figure out what it is, right? And I was like, well, that's a perfect time for me to come in here. We're doing a bi-weekly songwriter night where I'm going to record a live podcast with our featured songwriter. No different than what we're doing here, just live in person with the crowd. Get to know them a little bit, have them play and share their stories, and, have some featured art along with that. And those are the kind of things you need to, like I said, incubate that scene to get people comfortable with seeing original music all the time and having that, because I have nothing against a cover band. My band is half covers. I've seen your band play. That's something that you provide as well, right? I would love to be to the point, and where I'm trying to get my band this year is that, no, we're really just focusing on our originals now. And not that we won't play a cover or two. You're not going to get the 4-hour sets anymore. It's just, that's not where I'm at with my band. And if that means I play a little bit less, I'm okay with that too. That's fine. So you're releasing music. Day One is your latest single, which I've listened to, and we're going to have featured here on our review show. Tell us about Day One and kind of the process of going through and maybe the inspiration for the song.
Yeah. So the whole overall idea of the song was actually my wife's idea a few years ago. she always throws ideas at me, and a lot of them are, really good. But it kind of takes that mindset to write some of them. And I got off the road this last fall, and I was just kind of in a slump, and I wasn't really achieving the things I wanted to achieve from like a career standpoint, mental standpoint, and health. Just everything. I was kind of like, meandering my way through that time, and I just got to a point where I'm like, okay, this is enough. I need to start buckling down here, and it just became the right time. Her original concept was it takes day one to get to one day, and so I started writing it, and it came out great, and it was just one that right away, sometimes you write a song and you sit on it for a couple of years, and this one just came out from the start, and I just loved it and wanted to get it out there. So in February we released it, and we just released a music video a week ago, and we've got more on the way, some live videos of me performing the song, and if you haven't yet, you can stream that anywhere you stream your music these days.
Yeah, and we'll have all the link in the show notes and all that. You had an interesting concept for the video where you kind of involved your crowd a little bit. Can you talk about that?
Also my wife's idea.
So she's getting all the rights to when this song is successful.
I definitely cut her into the songwriting credits. So.
That's awesome. Is that her first songwriting credit?
No, my song Two of Us, she actually co-wrote also. So
that's all. My wife and I have been working on some co-writes and things too. And she's not really didn't grow up musical at all. So how fun that you guys do the same. Yeah.
Yeah, she doesn't play or sing or anything, but she has great ideas, and we roll with them. But this particular idea, it was very last minute. We were actually heading up. We were going to do a run of shows, and then the music video was going to be shot kind of in between shows. And she goes, what if we had everybody just write a goal that they want to achieve or they have achieved, and how many days they've been working on that, or how many days since they've achieved that goal. And we just have them kind of hold up the paper, and we kind of feature those throughout the video. And I loved the idea, and the producer of the video loved the idea, and so we rolled with it, and it turned out to be a pretty cool little thing with that music video, and added a lot of character to it.
Oh, it came out great, Brad. It's really touching to see it. It's really inspirational, right? To see everybody. Just a great idea, and it came together so beautifully. And I really hope that gets out there. And that's one of those things where it might be a few years, but somebody stumbles onto that, and one of those moments, goes viral, as they say, right? Because it is so inspirational. It's just a matter of finding that right time. No different than it took a couple years for the song to find its own time to come out. And as a songwriter myself, I've had a lot of those. I've had, pieces of songs come in bits and real clunky, and then other times where it just kind of spurts out. My latest release, Triple Fine, was one in the same way. It took me, more time to put it down on the page really than it did to come up with the whole song, right?
Yeah. Yep.
So I love the songwriting process, and I hope we kind of make that a little bit more, and maybe have a different show on the podcast to start going a little more in depth with things. That's the beauty of having a show of our own, Brad, is we can kind of do whatever the hell we want to.
That's right.
Well, man, I really appreciate your time today. Is there anything you want to plug before I let you go?
Man, not really. If you're interested in coming out to some shows, check out my schedule. My website's bradmorgan.net. I got my social media. I got my Facebook page back after it was stolen for 6 months. So facebook.com/bradmorganmusic, Instagram, TikTok, all that fun stuff. Streaming services for original music. And one more shameless plug, I'm going to be at your Writers Rounds in September.
Awesome. Yeah, we can't wait to have you, and we'll probably have you on the podcast again before that too. But congratulations to you on your nominations for Male Vocalist of the Year and Video of the Year at the Midwest Country Music Organization Awards. And Brad, we're going to see you at the show April 27th.
That's right. I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be a great night.
Well, we can't wait to see you and your lovely wife. My wife has her old prom dress out. She hasn't worn since high school. Yeah, I was like, oh, crap, I better get dressed up too, huh? We're really looking forward to seeing you guys and having a great time and being a part of the organization. It's really it's the first team I've been a part of maybe since high school, right? So
well, that's great.
Feels good, man. Well, thank you so much, Brad. I appreciate you tuning in with us and hanging out.
Well, I appreciate you having me on, and hope you have a good rest of your day.
All right. Thank you. That's Brad Morgan, everyone. You've been listening to The Scene. Follow along on all your social media channels and go to patreon.com/thescenesd and make yourself part of The Scene.